Tea Talk with Jojo. Mike, my friend, thank you. Thank you for coming to Move Miami.
Victor, thanks for having me.
All right, Move Miami. We're gonna talk about all things tea in this episode. Mike, what is tea?
Beautiful, beautiful question. What is tea? So, okay, I think like in order to answer that question, we got to start with the sound tea being used to describe a beverage. You know, when did that happen? And the British started using the sound tea to describe a beverage in the late 16 and early 1700s, right? They got this beverage from Dutch traders, and the Dutch traders called it té, which is why in Spanish we call it té.
Okay.
They called it té because they found it in eastern China, right? The local dialect in eastern China at that point, in the Guangdong province, right? They called it che, like C-H-E.
Okay.
Che. So che became té, became tea. But tea originates in southwest China, like that sound, right? It originates in southwest China. In Mandarin, it's cha. So it like kind of between Tibet and Thailand. That's where it all started. And that plant is called Camellia sinensis. Camellia sinensis is where you get white tea, green tea, black tea, oolong tea, pu'er tea, which is what we're drinking right now, yellow tea, and dark or post-fermented tea. That all comes from this one plant, which it originated as cha, and then became che, and then became te, and then became tea. As it went westward into India, it became chai. So you have your chai lattes, that's the same thing. Chai, cha, yeah, same thing.
One of the coolest things to do while you're in Miami, up here, I'm gonna call it MiMo. A lot of people will call it something else, but we're up here in between Little Haiti and El Portal, in the new Jojo Tea room.
76th Street in Biscayne.
And one of the things you can do if you're here in Miami is book a session here with Mike, and he's gonna run you through a lot of these different teas and what he's got in store. I mean, this guy has flown, I don't know, how many times have you been to China? It's the source.
Oh, not that many times, just to spend a lot of time while I'm there, but it's like, you know, they've been growing tea in China for over 6,000 years, you know what I mean? So it's like, a lot of the reason that somebody in my shoes would want to go to the farm is to check on the manufacturing of the process and to check on the soil conditions and so forth. But if people have been operating farms successfully since 1624, it's like, it's kind of silly for me to pretend that I'm gonna go over there and teach them anything. It's more like we're very lucky to like even know them and to be able to buy their tea, you know? Tea, like, because a lot of people they hear me talking about tea like this, they're like, bro, it's tea. Like, you guys, I've tasted teas that are over $500,000 a pound. And they're not even the top 5 most expensive tea in the world, you know? The world of tea is just as deep, if not more deep, than the world of wine, you know? And a $700 bottle of Beaujolais is perfectly accepted. But, you know, again, yeah, I've tasted teas over $500,000 a pound, over $1,000 a gram for the tea. And for the sake of hospitality, you know, your friend comes over, okay, you share a cup of tea with them. It's something that's nice, it tastes good, it makes you feel good, it's healthy, but it's just for its own purpose, you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely, and something you guys are gonna get to watch at the end, we're gonna throw some B-roll footage and you're gonna get to see, you know, the ritual of Mike brewing this tea that we're drinking right now. We're like on our 3rd glass and it's just, it's getting more complex as it goes. Why is that? Yeah,
so like, I'll explain. There's like first off, this style of tea brewing is called Gong Fu. Gong Fu, like Kung Fu, you know? Okay. Kung Fu is the Cantonese pronunciation of that word. The Mandarin pronunciation is Gong Fu. G-O-N-G-F-U, Gong Fu tea. Okay. So what does Gong Fu actually mean? Gong Fu means like anything that you practice with the goal of mastery and with attention to detail, you know? So like, of course, you can brew tea mindlessly, you know, you can like, even if you like brew tea very mindfully, you know, you have your scale, you weigh it out, you have your thermometer, you have your stopwatch, you put it in. That's all not really, in my opinion, that's not Gong Fu tea. Gong Fu tea, like you can see there's probably enough tea in here that it's maybe like 4 tea bags worth of tea. But you can see it's like, that's not even a cup, that's like 1/3 of a cup. Yeah. But then instead of letting the tea sit for a few minutes, you just let the tea sit for a few breaths. And then you pour. And then instead of needing a stopwatch with minutes, you learn how to listen to the tea. And you learn how to, like, you know, you can brew tea with anything, you know what I mean? A bowl, a cup, a pot, a gaiwan, like anything, you know what I mean? But when you know how to listen to her, you know, when you like know how to like relate with her. So what we're saying is like the reason that it gets so much like richer as we move through this process is a couple things. Like Chinese soil gave birth to the tea tree in the same way that Cuban soil gave birth to tobacco. Once it gets to a certain level that it's just like too difficult for the tea to grow, that's not ideal.
All right.
But it's like, but you do want like high elevation, subtropical areas, so you have a lot of humidity. Like the best tea really is like at the elevation of the clouds, because they're like the tea bushes are surrounded by water because they're in clouds, and that carries a lot of nutrients that feed the leaf directly. But then because they're on sloped soil, they get like nice filtered water just running through that doesn't like pool up and kind of like drown the roots.
So I've known Mike a long time, and I've been fortunate to see what he did in starting Jojo and how it's grown. I mean, if you go into any high-end restaurant in Miami, you're gonna see his tea on the menu. I mean, it's always changing. It's not the same thing. It's whatever he's sourcing that's high quality and that's gonna give you, you know, a great sip. So
and then that makes sense with that restaurant. You know, it's like different cuisines have a different degree of oil. Like, you know how a lot of people say, oh, I don't like Chinese food because it has so much oil, you know? It's like, people don't understand that like having Chinese food without tea is like, it's almost like it's a different thing, you know? Because the tea, literally what tea does is it breaks apart the oil and the fat in your food to make it easier to digest. Okay, there's a black tea that's smoked over pine wood, right? It's considered the first black tea in the world.
what would you pair that with?
Bro, like a pizza.
There you go.
You know, like a pepperoni pizza, coal-fired pizza, something like that, wood oven pizza with a smoked black tea. That'd be amazing, you know?
And what about, let's say we're gonna go to tropical Chinese, we're gonna have some Peking duck and some fried rice. What are you gonna throw in there? What cup of tea are you hitting us with?
Man, if you're at there, what I would do is, there's this Taiwanese oolong tea that's called Oriental Beauty. Dongfangmeran is this Taiwanese oolong tea that it comes from a tea strand called Qinxing Da Pan. It's like saying, you know, champagne is a Chardonnay Pinot Noir blend. Those are the strands of the grape, right?
Right.
So the strand of the tea bush that makes Oriental Beauty is called Qinxing Da Pan. Qinxing Da Pan gets attacked by small insects when the leaves are tiny, you know? And it develops concentrated sugars that are too strong for the insects. Then they take it apart and roast it, right? So that caramelizes all the sugars that are released when you roll, you know?
That's why I like oolong tea. It's probably one of my favorite of all.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want Miami to know about Jojo Tea? What sets you guys apart? What makes you different to someone that's not from here and doesn't know you like I do?
In acting school, I did a lot of yoga because that was like part of how you would work movement and work your control of your breath. When I graduated, I had a theater company in New York, but I moved back down to Miami when my dad had a heart attack, and I kind of wanted to help out the family. I focused on teaching yoga, and doing that led me to a small Buddhist temple where I wanted to learn how to teach meditation. And the teacher would always insist on making tea. She would always make tea, and I was like, yo, like, I just want to learn how to meditate. I don't give a shit about tea, please. But whatever, you know, I didn't want to be rude. I was like, okay, thank you, and drink the tea, and then, you know, keep on trying to learn meditation. But then I noticed that like the tea kind of started sneaking its way into my meditation, where I would heat water and then make tea and then drink it and then practice my meditation. And then, you know, you're counting your breaths to brew the tea. So then the next thing I knew, I was like, having a tea session took the place of the meditation, you know, where I would meditate by accident, but I was focusing on drinking tea. That's the way that I came into tea. The flexibility of tea is kind of like what I want to share with you guys, in the sense that like tea in its most pure form is a tea ceremony. There's one person sitting by themselves in silence, heating water, making tea and drinking it and doing nothing else. That's tea ceremony, that's tea practice, right?
Yeah, it's like a healing artist, but as I'm kind of learning right now.
Of course. It's like you're learning to listen, you know?
Interesting.
But then at the same time, like, it's also really dope to brew tea and listen to DMX and maybe smoke something if you like smoking something and have a session. You know, like, and that's also what we do here. We have sessions where we mix live vinyl, or we just play records, and it's more of like a chill session. You know, like there might be some educational component to it, just if you ask and if you're curious. But if you don't really want to like learn about tea, you just want to sit down and have a nice cup of tea. We call those sessions.
This is why I wanted to have this guy on. Mike, thank you for sharing this breadth of knowledge
Most
with
definitely.
all our guests, and don't forget to move Miami. Check out this guy. We're gonna plug all the info below.